Okay, so for those of you who watch my channel, you will know I did a Kiss tier list about a couple of weeks ago, but you would have noticed that I didn't include the 1978 solo albums because I was saving it for another video. So today we're going to talk about all of the Kiss solo albums, or I think I got most of them. I might have missed a few here and there, but this is the one that was on the tier list. I'm going to be ranking 24 albums, so let's just get right into it. Let's start with Ace Frehley's 1978 solo album. And this is going right up in the S tier because this is a near perfect album. Like if I had been ranking these along with like the other Kiss studio albums, this would be like in the top five, definitely. Great album, Rip It Out, Speeding Back to My Baby, New York Groove, and Fracture Mirror. I think start to finish, this is just a really awesome album. I think Ace like really had the best solo album out of all the 1978 ones. So that's going in the S tier. I don't even know if anything else is going to be in the S because that's how good this one is. Next is a Frehley's Comet from 1987. So this is a really good. He started a new band. There was Ace on guitars and vocals, and Todd Howarth on rhythm and lead, and also lead vocals. I like the Ace songs with him on vocals better, but this is just a really great album. Lots of good songs: Rock Soldiers, Into the Night, Dolls, Fracture 2. So this one I like a lot. So this one's definitely going in the A tier. They followed it up with a second sighting in 1988. This one is good. I think it's not as good as the first one. They had a new drummer, Jamie Oldiger. He had played with Bob Seger and Eric Clapton. And you got Ace on with guitars and vocals, and Todd Howarth on guitars, keyboards, and vocals. Good songs, Insane and Loser in a Fight. This one, it's not as good, but it's still good enough to be in the B tier. Then Ace released a proper solo album in 1989 called Trouble Walking. This one is really good. I used to listen to the one. I had the CD when it came out. You have some guest performances. You got Peter Criss. You got some members of Skid Row, Sebastian Bach, Rachel Bolan, and Dave Sabo. You have the song Do Ya, that was like the single. Hide Your Heart, which was also on the Kiss Hot in the Shade album, and Fractured 3. So this one is very good, probably a little better than some of the others. This one's, I'm going to put this like behind the Frehley's Comet song. Then came Anomaly in 2009. This one is pretty good. It's Ace Frehley, doing what he likes. You got the rock songs. It's what you would expect from him. So Fox on the Run is a cover song. You got Space Bear, Fractured Quantum, continuing his series of instrumentals. So it's basically Ace doing most of the vocals and guitar and some bass, and Anton Fig on drums, Anthony Esposito on bass. This one is decent. I mean, I'm going to put this in the B tier. And let me just make sure I pull the right one up. Here's Ace Frehley Anomaly. This one's going to be in the B tier behind Second Sighting. Then 2014 Space Invader. This one is, again, pretty good. You got Toys, Immortal Pleasure, The Joker, Inside the Vortex. It's, basically Ace doing most of the stuff. He does most of the guitars and vocals. You got some other people, Chris Weiss on bass, Matt Starr on drums and percussion. So it's decent. It's not, not a bad album, but I think it's definitely, I'll put it in the C tier because it's really, it's a decent album. That's all I got to say. Then Origins Volume 1. This is his covers album. He did two of them. I think this one's pretty good. You got guest appearances Slash, Leader 4, John 5, Mike McCready, and even Paul Stanley, guested on this. Some of the songs I liked: White Room, Street Fighting Man, Emerald by Thin Lizzy. That's a good deep cut. And then Parasite, which is an old Kiss song. Rock and Roll Hell, another Kiss song that's kind of like underrated. That's from the Creatures of the Night. So I think this one is decent. But again, it's a covers album, so I'm going to just put it in the C tier. And then 2018, he went with a Spaceman. This one is, I guess that's not great. Gene Simmons co-wrote like two of the songs. Some good songs: Bronx Boy, Pursuit of Rock and Roll, and Quantum Flux. I think that's part of the Fractured series. So this one I don't really have much to say, but I don't think it's like that great. But I'm gonna put it. I guess he was kind of like running out of good ideas at this point. So I'm gonna put this one in D. I never thought it was like a great album. And then Origins Volume 2, another covers album. You got Lita Ford, John Clyde, Robin Zander, Rob Sabino, and Bruce Kulick. Got some good songs here. Good Times, Bad Times, Space Truck and Jumper Jack Flash with Lita Ford. Politician, that's an old Cream song. That's a really great song. I haven't never heard that one before. And She, one of the heavier songs from the earlier Kiss albums. So this one it's good. Not much more to say about it. Mm. But I'm gonna put this in the C tier. Okay, let's talk about Gene Simmons now. I only have two albums. So this one is the 1978 solo album is pretty good. There's some good stuff and there's some stuff that's not that great. So he has a lot of cool guests. We have Joe Perry from Aerosmith, Bob Seger, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, Donna Summer, Helen Reddy, and Cher. So he has a lot of guest vocalists. He also had like Katie Segal. You probably know her from Married with Children or Sons of Anarchy. She was actually unknown at the time, but she did some vocals on this album. So that was interesting. Probably the best songs, Radioactive and See You Tonight, and the worst songs, Mr. Make Believe and When You Wish Upon a Star. So this one, it's a C, and I'm gonna put it behind the Ace albums because it's okay. Next, 2004, Gene Simmons' Asshole. This is just bad. And first of all, the album cover, it's kind of looks like this promo for like a VH1 reality show. And interesting note on this album, it's the first album I've ever like streamed because back in 2004, I think I had like broadband, like AOL online, and I streamed it through this like Winamp program. But it's just not good. There's a cover of that Prodigy song Firestarter, but the rest of the songs they're just cringy. You got like the title track Black Tongue. This one I don't like at all. I think he was going for this like 2000s, like almost like that post grunge new metal sound alternative. It's just not good. So I'm gonna put this all of it at the bottom. Next is let's talk about Bruce Kulick. He doesn't get really a lot of attention. So his first solo album, Audio Dog, 2001, it's pretty good. You got a mix of instrumentals, kind of similar to what you would hear on like a Joe Satriani album, like that type of thing. You have hard rock songs. You have some. You got Bruce on vocals and some of the stuff songs. So some good songs. Strange to Me, I Don't Mind, Dogs of Morrison. So I thought this one was pretty good. I'm gonna put this in the B tier behind Anomaly. So I thought it was good. Next is Bruce Kulick with Transformer 2003. His second solo album, solo album, and I thought this was his best one. It has It's Just My Life with John Corabi and vocals. That one's really good. You got two instrumentals, so it's fewer instrumentals than the previous album, some rock songs, and the songs I like, If Love's the Answer, Crazy and Do It Right. So this one was definitely an improvement. So I'm gonna put this one up in the A tier, up here. So next one is BK3, the third Bruce Kulick album from 2010. This one he had a lot more guest vocalists. We have Gene Simmons on one song. You also have Nick Simmons, who is Gene's son. He does vocals on another song. And he sounds like a lot like his father. And then John Corabi does a track, and Tobias Sammet does another track. This one is good. I think Transformer was better, but still a good album. So this one I'm gonna put up pretty high. So that one is which one? BK3. Okay, find this one here. This one's gonna go in the B tier. I'm gonna put it up maybe ahead of his first album, like that. Okay, next let's talk about Paul Stanley, the 1978 solo album. It's good. This is probably the solo album that sounds closest to Kiss, but kind of like the lighter side, something like the Unmasked album. You got some good songs. Tonight You Belong to Me, You got a 70s hard rock, Hold Me, Touch Me, and Think of Me When We're Apart, or whatever it's called, or something like that. And I think it's a decent album. It's not as good as Ace. This is probably like the second best one. But I'll put this up in the I'm gonna put this up in the B tier, but I'm gonna put it like ahead of these three albums here. So this one is very good. And 2006, Paul Stanley released Live to Win. This is his other solo album. It's pretty good. A sound typical of the mid 2000s. So it reminded me of bands like Breaking Benjamin, Seether, Shine Down, Three Doors Down, like that type of sound, but still Paul Stanley. Some heavier songs like Live to Win, Lift, Wake Up Screaming, some lighter songs, Every Time I See You Around, Second to None. I think this one's decent. I think it doesn't really get a lot of attention, but I think this is not great, but I would say B tier. Maybe I'll put it like right behind his, so I'll put it right behind his solo album because I thought it was pretty good. It's kind of underrated. Now let's talk about Peter Criss. The 1978 solo album. This is one that probably gets a lot of hate because it's very different than like a typical Kiss album, but it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. I think Peter Criss was in Kiss for the money and the fame, but he's not really. I don't even think he likes like rock and metal music. I think he was just in it because for because he was popular. But this album is more soul, R&B, jazz, just rock and roll. This it's not really hard rock, but we have some good songs. I'm Gonna Love You is kind of more like country feel, upbeat. You Matter to Me, that's very good song. That was like the single, very like 70s sounding. Tossing and Turning, that's like a blues and gospel song. Easy Things, a ballad, something along the lines of Beth. And maybe a good deep cut is called Hooked on Rock and Roll. It's just a very like upbeat, old time rock and roll song. So this one, it's not bad. So I'm actually gonna like put this also in the B tier, and I'll put it at a low B because although it's different, I think it's pretty good, and I actually have it above Gene because I think it just is kind of underrated. Now, next is Out of Control from 1980. This is Peter Criss, his second solo album. First of all, it's kind of hard to see. I recommend Googling the cover because it's like the most like 80s looking album cover of all time. It's like this arcade game with all these like colors bursting out of it. It's you gotta Google this album cover. So I'm sorry you can't see it here well, but this one I think is his best. So By Myself, we have a soft James Taylor type of song. In Trouble Again, more of a hard rocker. I think this one could actually pass for like a Kiss B-side. Where They Run, a very 70s funky and groovy sound. I Found Love and Out of Control, more rock songs, but something along the lines of like Supertramp or that type of 70s sounds and words. A very 70s sounding ballad. So overall, this one is very good. I'm actually going to put it in the A, like behind these albums, because I enjoyed this one. Like for Peter Criss, I think this is his best album. Peter Criss followed up with Let Me Rock You in 1982. It's good, not as good as Out of Control, but you got some rocking songs. So you have a opening track, Let It Go. That's like this foreigner style, like radio rock song. Tears is kind of closer to like 80s new wave. Moving over, more like prog rock or like Billy Joel or that kind of song. He does a cover of John Lennon's Jealous Guy and some of the rock ballads, First Day in the Rain. So overall, not too bad. And also the album cover is kind of not that great, but I'm gonna put this in B, but I'll put it like right behind the 78 solo album. Next is Cat Number One from 1994. This is Peter Criss. He had a band called Criss. Same kind of music as, but it came out in 1994. So there are like hints of like alternative rock. So the song Strike has some kind of grungy undertones, but it's more of like this, like I mentioned before, like the Billy Joel Supertramp type of song, that type of sound. Then there's a song with Ace Frehley called Blue Moon Over Brooklyn, which is a blues rock track, very different from anything like you would know Ace play. There's an acoustic version of Beth, and there's like a song called Walk the Line, where I think they were going for kind of like this Alice in Chains style. So this one is mixed. I don't think it's that great. I'm gonna put it in the C tier, maybe behind the Aces albums. Then One for All. This one came out in 2007 by Peter Criss. This one is just very like laid back. I found very it was a little boring for me because you got some blues rock, you got Last Night, a soft acoustic ballad. It doesn't get better than this, more like country rock. Send in the Clowns, just a softer song with orchestration, and Space Ace, a song about Ace Frehley, but they kind of like he's kind of making fun of him or talking about his betrayal. So I thought this one, I think if you like this like old people's music, I guess that's what I call it, or if you like soft jazz or that type of thing. But for me, that this is just a very low C for me. Next is the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, the first album. This one is like really good. Or actually, this one is good, but I think the second one was better. But this one, the band, Robert Fleischman on vocals, Vinnie Vincent on guitars, Dana Strom on bass, Bobby Rock on drums. They had two singles, Boys Are Gonna Rock, Back on the Streets. Now they did a music video, and in the music video, Mark Slaughter appeared because he was actually the vocalist on the second album, which I found was better. But I think there's some decent songs. Back on the Streets. That's a decent song. That was like originally supposed to be a Kiss song for Creatures of the Night. But overall, this one's good. The second one was better, but this one is going to be. I think it's just. I'll put it like a high C behind, right above the covers albums. But the other one was, I think, a lot better, called All Systems Go. The second one, and this one had Mark Slaughter on vocals. And this one also has like Jeff Scott Soto doing some backing vocals, so that was interesting. This is also an album that I used to own. I used to listen to it all the time. So we have Love Kills, That Time of the Year. So those were the singles. And actually, Love Kills was in the Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Deep Dream Master soundtrack. So this one I think is very good. I'm gonna put this one up high. I'm actually gonna put it in the A tier, but down here, I'm actually going to put it behind this Peter Criss album because I like this one a lot. And the last one is going to be Rockology. This is an album by Eric Carr. It was released in 1999. Now, if you don't know, he passed away in 1991. So it's basically a posthumous album. The songs he was working on before his death. And so they were like completed again by Bruce Kulick. So there's some good songs that were like intended for like some of the Kiss albums, like Eyes of Love, Somebody's Waiting. And then Eric Carr had this anime television series that I guess it never got off the ground. It was called Rockheads. And then there were some songs that were like meant for that. But this is basically Eric Carr doing drums, leading backing vocals, keyboards, and bass and acoustic guitar. Then Bruce Kulick did the lead and rhythm, and then Adam Mitchell was on keyboard. So for this one, the production was weak. You can't really hear the vocals, but it's understandable because you have to understand it's a posthumous album. They're unfinished songs, and they just wanted to put it out as kind of like a tribute to him. So I kind of like don't really want to criticize it too much, but I think it's the kind of album like if you're like a Kiss like completist, that's the type of album for you. But otherwise, it's good, but it's not like a great album. I'm gonna put it. I'll put it in the C, but I'll put it like a high C because it's a pretty good album, but it's just like songs that were kind of like unfinished. So that's all I have for the solo albums. These were kind of like hard to rank, but there's a lot of good stuff here by the Kiss members. So if you're a fan of Kiss and you want to check out some more music from the other members, so these are the other albums. There were a few I missed. I know Paul Stanley had like this R&B album that came out last year, I think, or 2 years ago. That one I didn't include, and there might have been a few others that I missed, but I just included what was included in this tier list. So that is all. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.